Hello all, and welcome to Rave and Review, where we rave about and review any and all things pop culture and anything that interests us. I'm Kaya, and you can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at kaya.r.pennington, and I'm also on Snapchat at QueenAthena44.
My name is Brianna, but I go by Bree, and you can follow me on Twitter at Bree Renee26, and I don't really got any other social media, so you got to stick with that.
And you can follow Rave and Review on Twitter and Instagram at Rave_and_review. Before we get into it, be sure to follow, subscribe, like, comment, and most importantly, share. Please share.
And hit the notification button. We need it. We need all of that, please.
Now let's get into our first segment called Twitter Conversations, where we discuss trending threads on Twitter. Today we're talking about making friends as adults. I've seen a lot of people talk about how hard it is for them to make friends as adults. What do you think, Brie? Do you think it's hard, or what are your thoughts?
It's definitely harder, mostly because people already have their friend groups, right? People are already clicked up, they got their best friends, and they really just don't want to let people into their groups. They're comfortable already, and why would you step outside your comfort zone if you're already comfy? And you get out of high school, and honestly you split up with most of your friends because you're probably not going to the same colleges. That's just a fever dream. It's not happening, okay? Y'all not gonna go to the same college.
Sometimes it happens. Don't kill everyone's dream
on Glee. And we'll get into that. It don't happen, okay? It's not something that happens. It's not common. Most people even move to different states. You know what I'm saying? And you can't expect everything to be perfect, right? And so you turn into an adult, and all of a sudden you owe the government everything. And you just have more responsibilities. It's hard to meet up with your friends. You'd be like, hey, want to hang out? And suddenly they are busy. You have a life? What? And it's just it's weird. And you don't, and I mean do not want to be friends with your coworkers. Don't try it unless they're really nice, but please don't even attempt to do it. I promise you, they messy. Okay,
let's make it clear though, you work with old people anyway.
Not in my new job. No, I don't. They not old, they just messy and rude.
For me, I agree. It is very hard to make friends as adults. There's a certain level of conscience that you have as an adult that you maybe didn't have as a middle schooler or a high schooler, and you just have to be conscious about, hey, people are really weird. And I don't mean eat lead weird. I mean murderous weird. People hate rejection type weird. And so now you really have to filter out who you can let in and who you can't. For me, now I can be that person that talks. I don't have a problem with that. If it's a presentation, I can do that. If it's just polite conversation, hey, how y'all doing, and getting stuff off, making people feel, warming people, I can do that. That. But just being hey, do you want to go grab lunch for a social reason and not because of work? That's hard, and it's terrifying to me, and it's weird that it's so terrifying to me because, again, I can be the person that is hey, how y'all doing, and let's warm up to one another. I can be that person in work settings. Also, and this is something that I've noticed for me, I've never had a friend that I approached and was hey, you want to be friends? All my friends are either by association or proximity, closeness. I've never had a friend where I just walked up and was let's be friends. But what you said about people already having their own friend group, I really feel that. Freshman year in college for me was the absolute worst. And it's not because I was trying to push myself into people's friend groups or anything. It was just it was a really hard time. But also it's I am that person that's oh man, we got to go through this whole thing of, hey, how are you? What are your likes and what are your dislikes? Can we just skip to the bestie part? Because I don't want to.
Honestly, I hate that whole weird friendship talking period where you gotta try to understand somebody, and then you gotta get them to trust you and get them. I don't like it. And honestly, I'm also not the kind of person who goes let's be best friends. I I'm like, you know how they say stray cats choose their owners? That's me. I just
look, if we being honest, from my perspective anyway, we were friends by association.
Yes, we were friends by association. I didn't even know you like that.
I didn't know
I
you
didn't know
either.
you like that. I was friends with Elijah, and then Elijah became friends with Katie, and then Katie was.
By the way, these are not their real names. We're not using their real names.
Yeah, totally. That's totally not.
But
it's totally not their names.
It was
right?
all by association, and like I don't even know how I became friends with. I don't even know. I don't know, because I remember we weren't the best of people to each other. Like we didn't like each other, and then all of a sudden it was just like, let's hang out and let's eat lunch together. And there was another one. I came to be friends with her because of my association with her sister, who had something very in common with me, and I'm not even
weird.
It is.
It's weird. And then I'm the kind of, when I was in high school, I went to school with you, then I moved schools, and I had a lot of friends there, and actually I had a lot of fun there. And then I moved to another school, and we're not going to talk about not the best experience, but so that's also what made it really weird. Like when I graduated, it's not like I had a whole gaggle of friends to call up and go hang out with. It was me and Netflix.
I ain't gonna lie though, I feel that though, because we've had a lot of friendship breakups too, breakups and makeups, and so it's also like when you're graduating by yourself, or when you're doing these really big accomplishments by yourself and you have no one to share them with, you want friends. And I'm not against making friends as an adult. I want friends as an adult, but also I think that's why I value my middle school, high school friendships so much, is because like we've been through a lot together and we already established these relationships, and it's not so awkward.
It does get a little awkward, especially if people only know the old you.
That's fair.
I'm not the same girl I was in high school.
That's fair.
I don't look like her. I don't act like her. I'm a completely different human being. And that's also why, like, I'm not really, like, trying my hardest to reach out to my old friends, because y'all don't know me no more.
See, but again, that kind of goes out with just making friends in general. As an adult, you have to just letting people know the new you. But for me, it's just like those relationships are already established. Yeah, there might have been like new things that have happened, and but at your core, at my core anyway, I'm not like totally different. Yeah, I am different from high school or middle school, but I'm not totally different. Like,
I'm completely different. I feel like I'm a lot different. I feel like I'm not the same person at all. I've went through many phases, and I've come out to be the person I am now, and I like me. And
that's what's most important.
I don't want to revert back to old Brie. Old Brie was cringy. She was annoying. She was really stupid. And
she was young and naive. How about that?
I'm still naive, but I'm not stupid anymore. So hey.
Speaking of awkward ages and awkward friendships, let's move into our TV segment, Off the Deep End, where we talk about shows that were once good but went off the deep end. And today that show is Glee. Glee was a musical dramedy that aired on Fox, and it followed several high school students as well as two of their teachers experiencing the ups and downs, the lows and highs of high school. There was Rachel, who was the cutthroat theater kid, Finn, who was the dopey quarterback, Mercedes, who was the black vocalist, Mike and Tina, who were the Asian stereotypes, Artie, who was the wheelchair kid who wanted to walk because that's basically how they treated him, Santana, Brittany, and Quinn, who were the cheerleading trio, and Puck, who was the reformed bully, as well as Mr. Shu, who was their teacher, and Sue, who was the cheerleading coach and lived for thwarting the Glee Club. So Brie, what are your thoughts on Glee? How was it once good, and how did it go off the deep end?
Okay, so I feel like what mostly carried the show were the characters and not the story. Because if you think about it, the story of Glee wasn't groundbreaking. They just had a really good ensemble of a really dynamic characters, and they carried the show. we can't sit here and say, oh yeah, there are so many storylines in Glee that and they crossed paths that didn't make sense. Stuff that ended was cut short, and stuff that lasted throughout the entire show. And a lot of it is just like, who cares about the story of Glee? The story of Glee is stupid. Everybody liked it for the amazing covers. Some of them were bad. Really bad. A lot of them were good. And mostly the characters were really annoying too, like Rachel. And then that's not the only reason why the show went downhill, because I feel like what really makes a story like last throughout the years is if it's a good story. If it's just the characters carrying the show, why are we watching it again? Like, why are we watching it again? I could just watch YouTube clips of it, right?
See, and that's my thing. I don't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
It's okay, but go girl.
I think Glee was decent in like the first 4 seasons, and then half of the cast graduated and the other half stayed behind. I think that was a mistake.
And it got so weird.
It did. I think either they all should have graduated at the same time, and then it ended there, but we could have seen like a after or whatever. Or they all could have graduated at the same time, and then we see the college years and the workforce years. But I feel like everyone should have graduated at the same time, because the graduating characters coming back to engage in high school drama was weird. It did not work. Move on. And then the new characters were basically watered down versions of the originals anyway.
Yes. I'm like, what? Did Puck have to have a brother?
Yeah.
Did Puck have to have? We didn't care about Puck's siblings. We never did. We didn't even like Puck's character. Come on now, or the actor.
I mean, I feel like here are my thoughts on the characters. Rachel was that cutthroat theater kid that is so toxic no one wants to be around, and I'm so glad that you'll see this phenomenon on TikTok where they're really showing what actual theater kids are like, and I'm so glad of that, because like being in the theater acting major, it's just like we're not all like this.
Everybody does not want to be on Broadway. I'm sorry. Broadway, although of course Broadway is the peak of that field, everybody don't got Broadway dreams. Some people actually want to teach acting and want to teach singing and stuff like that.
A lot of the other students that I'm in class with are doing theater to teach and not even just...
Exactly. So it's just a weird thing to make them all like, I mean, of course you can go to a school like Juilliard or NIADA if that's real. Is that a real school, NIADA?
I don't know if it is, but I know if it wasn't, it was based off AMDA, so, which is
okay. Real. Okay, I'm just like, everybody don't want to go to no prestigious school like that either, because guess what? Who got the money for it? Where did their parents find the money to send them to these colleges and pay for their plane tickets?
Girl, if I had the money, if I had AMDA money, I would be there. I ain't even lie.
I don't. Can we talk about the budget? Okay, can we just talk about this real quick? Because Kurt, in the very first season, he was driving an Escalade, was he not?
He was, wasn't he?
I
guess that was supposed to be, symbolic of his taste as the gay character, which nah.
Sometimes,
like he was harmful in season 1, at least the first few episodes anyway, because he had a crush on Finn and he wanted to turn Finn, which was, that's a harmful stereotype. I'm glad they pushed out of that. But then they made him Rachel's gay best friend, and it's like they weren't friends to begin with. He was a cutthroat theater kid too, but not on her level. They didn't have to be friends, in my opinion.
And a lot of it, Kurt's character is weird. Kurt, I can't. It's just, Kurt's character is weird because, like you said, he wasn't really friends with Rachel. If anything, Rachel should have hated Kurt.
They started out, I don't know, I guess it was supposed to be like an evolution, but like you don't always have to pin the theater kid with the gay theater kid. It doesn't always work.
Exactly. And then and then I also think that the whole plot with Karofsky and making him just like,
which is another harmful stereotype.
I'm mean to gay people because I'm gay. Like, that's not always the case. Some people are just mean to gay people because they don't like gay people.
Right.
And that's
I think Finn was like, he was self-righteous to me. Like that episode where he tried to force Santana out of the closet. Like,
I didn't like that.
he was self-right. Santana, speaking of Santana, I know a lot of people will sit here and defend her as the mean girl with a heart of gold, but for me that's a trope that needs to die, because a lot of these people were there for her despite, like, I get being bitchy to Rachel or even Finn, but a lot of these people were there for her when her cheerleading people weren't, when Sue kept like bullying her, and she's just constantly mean to them. Like, I don't.
Let's not sit here and act like Trotty Mouth was not the song of the year that year. Let's not sit here and act like Trotty Mouth was not the song of the summer. Come on now.
Whatever.
Please.
My feelings on Quinn. Quinn was also self-destructive. She was really mean to these people who again were there for her and didn't really judge her, even though she was pregnant in high school. She was consistently mean to them, and she was self-destructive. I don't get why.
At one point, Quinn actually stopped being mean to them, though.
At one point, and then she went back and started blaming them like it was their fault. Like, you the one. Look,
Quinn always, like, even after she graduated, she was still broken. Because did she have a sugar daddy after she graduated?
She was over there messing with her teacher.
Exactly.
Puck was a weirdo. I'm not going to get any more into that. He was a weirdo. Mercedes is very hard to watch in the first few episodes or even the first season with how stereotypical she is, but she's a great singer.
She was so badly written, though.
So badly.
She has so much potential, and then like this entire show, the hardest thing, the most delusional thing that was written was them trying to convince us that Rachel sang better than Mercedes.
Or even Santana. We know those two were the golden ones. I'm sorry.
Like, anytime Mercedes and Santana linked up for a little shindig, it was a good song. Like, are we really gonna say act like the Treble Tones did beat New Directions that season?
Please.
Treble Tones were miles better, way better. Like, come on. I
think my thoughts on Mike and Tina, I think they had a lot of talent and a lot of potential, but they were just never really given that storyline. For the first few or the first few episodes in season 1, it was Asian and other Asian, which, yeah, you're using racism as satire to be funny, but at some point it's just like, move on. It's not funny, it's cringy, and it's shock factor. Move on.
And then I think even at one point, at the end of season 3, Tina was mad about that, and she expressed herself, but like, that's too late.
They always try to gaslight the characters when they outside of Rachel and Finn, all the other characters, they always try to gaslight when they try to express themselves.
Yes, and can we tell you what made me angry, Kaya, what made me real mad, was when Mercedes, she had a boyfriend that wasn't white, and although I do think that Mercedes and Sam was cute, why could Mercedes have a black boyfriend?
That's fair, but also I agree that Sam and Mercedes were cute and that they should have been given their due. They totally should have been the it couple. I'm sorry. I get what you're saying. I agree, but also...
Speaking of it couples, why are we lying to ourselves and acting like Rachel and Finn were a cute couple? They were not.
Either the it couple should have been Sam and Mercedes, or it should have been Brittany and Santana, because they were a couple and Santana was like the undercover. So they could have done that. I don't really have feelings on Brittany. I will say this. I don't care for any show that overtly plays into how stupid a character is. Like, we get it, and yeah, it's done for like comedic effect. She was funny, but also we get it. She's not the brightest. It doesn't have to be like completely, she should not be in high school. Like,
I think Brittany, because here's what I think about Brittany though. Because yeah, she's really stupid, but I think there's also a lot of her being she's stupid, like 100%. She's dumb, not even childlike, naive. Like, she seemed like really sheltered by her parents. Like, she thought that Santa was still real. She thought leprechauns were still real. So clearly her parents weren't teaching her stuff. So that's what I got from Brittany. She seemed like, she didn't really want to learn, and she was really stupid, but she was also a really good dancer. And I learned in season 4 she can kind of sing. She can't hold the note now, but she can kind of sing. And I kind of like Brittany and Santana. Those two are my favorite characters. And Blaine. I love me some Blaine. Yeah. Can we talk about Blaine, please?
We can talk about him. I don't have much on him. I think he gaslit Kurt a lot when he wasn't getting his way. but also I don't have much about Blaine.
I don't think Blaine was gaslighting Kurt. I think Kurt has a problem with talking about himself too much. Like,
I do get that. I do think that, but also nearly every time they were having an argument, it was insinuated or flat out said, I moved here for you. I changed schools for you. That's gaslighting.
you can say that, but like, it's kind of true though. Like, you can't sit here and invite your significant other to go to move into a completely different environment and then expect them to just not be uncomfortable when you decide to ignore them. Hello, they're there because of you, and you should probably be nicer to them. Like, Kurt literally had a whole side piece. We're not gonna talk about that. Like, he had a whole side piece, and then he up and went to New York. Now, if I was blamed personally, I would have went back to Warblers. That's me though. I would have right back to the Warblers. But I don't think Kurt was the best significant other to blame. That's just how I feel.
I agree. Sue, I think we talked about it a little. They tried to give her that sympathy card of her sister having issues, and that's what turned her into like the cold-hearted monster, because she faced a lot of bullying. But at some point, it's just like you stuck in your high school bully era because you're doing the exact same thing that those kids did to y'all. How does that make you any better? Like, she called out Mr. Shu a lot when he was being a creep, because Mr. Shu was he was a grade A, he was a certified creep trying to relive his theater high school days through the kids, which move on. But she on the same level for me anyway, because you're bullying all these kids, and for what? Because you were bullied years ago. You're a middle-aged woman now.
A walking contradiction. That's what Sue was.
But I said all that to say the show was decent. I just don't think that either they all should have graduated at the same time and it could have ended there and we could have saw an epilogue or something, or they all should have graduated at the same time and we could have saw the college years or the workforce years, but we should not have split it. It should have gotten outside of high school. It needed to move on.
Exactly. Like, we need to move on.
Yes, so from TV to film, let's review a movie from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Today, that movie is Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. Let it be known, though, before we get into it, let it be known, we are talking about the Marvel Cinematic Movie Universe and their movie counterparts, not the comics, as those are two completely different beings. So, with that said, Brie, what were your thoughts on Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness?
Also, spoiler alert. Okay, we spoil it.
Spoiler alert. It is now on Disney Plus. If you don't have Disney Plus, I'm sorry. If you haven't seen it in theaters, I'm sorry. There'll be light spoilers, but spoiler alert.
I think the movie was solid. If you disregard all the trailers that overhyped it, it was solid.
They did what they were supposed to do. The trailers tricked us. They did what they were supposed to do.
Yes, and honestly, personally, I love the horror aspect in it, because when I write stuff, it doesn't matter what genre it starts out as, it ends up as horror. So like, I really enjoyed how scary they made Wanda. I think that if you're going to make a character like Scarlet Witch, who is supposed to be this huge, horrible witch that destroys the world, make her scary. Okay, this is not a movie for kids. Scare them kids. Forget them kids. Okay, she's scary.
Kids.
And Professor X dying is hilarious. Him getting his head snapped, his neck snapped, hilarious. I don't care. The director said, forget them cameos. Y'all's dying today. Okay.
Personally, I think actor, I can't hit Patrick Stewart. I think he said, yo, I got stuff to do. Let's get in and get out. I got stuff to do.
Exactly.
But for me, the film was all right. The cameos were decent. Elizabeth Olsen really slayed as a villain. She did that. That being said, I walked away from that film feeling disappointment. More specifically, disappointment at Wanda. I'm gonna try not to go too far into it, because I have a separate video about this on my own YouTube channel, Kaya's Commentary, where I talk about it. But basically, yes, please go follow my YouTube channel, Kaya's Commentary. But basically, her story arc for this film was basically that of WandaVision. Do you disagree? Do you agree? Like, let me explain. So, in WandaVision, she starts off unknowingly, being evil or selfish or whatever. And then she realizes what she's done, and she's like, oh, Well, you know
they
what?
did do that again.
She's like, you know what? I'm going to continue being selfish. And then she sees how much she's scaring people and hurting people. And she's like, oh, I don't want to do this. So she stops. In Doctor Strange, she starts off knowing that, you know, she's being evil or doing morally great things. But she pardons herself by saying, I'm a mother. And then she gaslights them saying, y'all are the ones making me do this. Just give me what I want and I'll go away. And then she continues to be selfish. And then she sees how scared her kids are of her. And she's like, oh, I can't do this. I have to stop. It's the same thing. Like, it's the same.
But also, the movie does emphasize how much of a personality change the Darkhold gives you.
Let me get to that. So it's been 2 years in the movieverse since Wanda, but we don't really see her being corrupted by the Darkhold. I will say this, that end scene in WandaVision where she's looking at the Darkhold, I apparently completely misinterpreted that scene. I thought she was looking at the book as to say, this is what the Scarlet Witch is, these are my powers and whatnot, not because it was corrupting her. I missed the whole thing about the Darkhold being corrupting her. But like, it's been 2 years and we don't see it though. We don't see any of that. So, and did you really make her a villain if you give her the out of, oh, it's the Darkhold that's corrupting her? It's not really her, it's the Darkhold.
But don't a lot of Marvel villains have that though? Like, if you watch, like, Spider-Man, you saw how easy it was for him to cure them people? Like, obviously there's a cure for each villain, right? But Wanda has that characteristic where, like, she can easily go off in the deep end, but she's still a good person.
See, and that, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, girl, I was done.
See, and that's my thing. It's like, you give her all this reason for why she could be a villain, which she deserves to be selfish. She could definitely be a villain. But then outside of the epilogue in WandaVision, when she flies off, you basically say at her core, she's not that person. And you do it here. At her core, she's not that person. She's not the villainous person. Like,
oh, because then, and also in WandaVision, they said that Scarlet Witch was the woman who's supposed to destroy the world.
Which is another thing. Scarlet Witch and Wanda aren't two different beings. They make it seem like she's two different beings, and she's not.
Well, I think they say that because they're trying to say that Wanda is not evil. You know what I'm saying?
I get that. I do get that.
Her powers corrupt her, so they're like, oh, that's not Wanda. Wanda don't do something like this. Wanda, this is Scarlet Witch.
I get that, but then that goes back to what I'm saying. Did you make her a villain? You didn't make Wanda a villain. If you wanted a villain Wanda is a Wanda that doesn't, she's aware of everything. It's not because something is corrupting her. Sure, the Darkhold has an influence, but ultimately she doesn't care. That's a villain Wanda. You could have got a villain Wanda from another universe. It's the Multiverse of Madness. To me, it just does not seem believable for this Wanda, this current universe Wanda, to be a villain. And I know villain is part of her comic book counterpart, but again, different characters. They're different characters. We've already established that at her core, Wanda is not this person. So I just, and you kind of make her go into that crazy witch trope. It's her powers. It's her grief.
Why?
Like,
We just gotta be crazy.
Like, this is something, it does happen to the male counterparts, but you see it way more in the female counterparts.
Mm-hmm.
And my last two things. One, this is not a comparison of how strong Wanda is compared to Professor X, or even how strong she is compared to Jean Grey. But her killing Professor X, that death did not seem earned. Like, he fought, I know you say it's funny, but listen, he fought tooth and nail with Jean Grey and lost. But Wanda comes in and it's just like, oh crap, there she is, and then he's gone. Like, he could have at least fought.
They have an excuse for that though.
What?
The Darkhold makes her stronger. Yeah, the Darkhold makes her
and it's
evil
all
and
about the
strong.
Darkhold. My last thing is that Vision, which is he's not the driving factor of her grief in this film. That is her boys in this film. But he was the driving factor of her grief in WandaVision, which leads her to getting to the Darkhold. And they only mention him once at the beginning of the film.
Why are we not going to talk about how there's a whole nother Vision flying around, a whole nother
weapon
of mass destruction?
Instead of finding him to procreate, you just go terrorize people.
That's just crazy to me.
But we have to move on. We're running out of time. So let's move into our last segment of the day. It's time for What's in the Headlines, where we rave and review about celebrity news and gossip. And today we're talking about Beyonce dropping new music, Marvel in hot water for their Miles Morales issue number 4, their What If issue number 4, and Normani being featured in Chris Brown's new music video. Bree, what are your thoughts first on Beyonce dropping new music?
I love Beyonce new song. It's just everything to me. It's everything. I'm tired of the Drake comparisons. Drake music don't compare to Beyonce. Stop it. Okay. And I'm also tired of people like calling her old music Negro spirituals. Can we just talk about how there's literally no difference from the uplifting music from The Gift and the uplifting music that she's doing right now? Like, it's the same thing. It's just not Afro. It's not African based. Like, can we talk about that?
I just think I'm aggravated that people are being so picky. I get that you want something to dance to from her, but like, are you saying that like those Negro spirituals her uplifting the Black community and Black roots is a problem? Like, if you want something to dance to, that's fine from her. That's fine. But what if she as an artist was past that? She's not, because this song has meaning, don't get me wrong, but what if she wanted to make music that had more meaning to her and her roots? If you want that, that's fine if you want that, but also please quit being so picky. And y'all don't let this billionaire have y'all jobless.
For real, like, Beyonce, please don't cancel me. I'm gonna be high too, but please don't.
Look, that's all I'm saying. Don't let
Beyonce
the billionaire
talking like she's a socialist and she is literally a whole capitalist. It's the funniest thing to me. But let's move on.
Let's switch it up and let's go to Marvel. And they're in a bit of hot water for their What If Miles Morales issue number 4, where he's depicted as Thor. That's not the issue. According to Indie100.com, the issue is how they portray him. They portray him in a stereotypical light. So there's graffiti all over his neighborhood and on the hammer itself. There are shoes hanging from pole lines. He refers to Asgard as his hood and many other stereotypical things. Bree, what is your thoughts on that?
Tired. That's what my thoughts is. I just think it's crazy how Asgard suddenly turned into the hood once a Black man starts to protect it and run it.
This is also one of the first stories for Miles Morales to not be written by a Black author.
Oh, that explains it then. Of course, a white person doesn't understand, because Miles Morales he's a nerd. He's a square bear. He don't talk like that. All Spider-Mans are nerds.
Agreed. And I think if people are this upset about it, clearly this is not how his normal world is depicted, or at least not to this level. And it would help to have a Black writer in the room, especially if most of his other storylines are written by Black writers. It's not that hard. I don't know if they thought they were being cool by adding in that, oh, this is my hood and all of this and all of that. But to me, it's just like you missed the mark. Like, if you are, and this might sound a bit hypocritical because I'm not well versed on the comics, but then again, I'm not pinning storylines for Marvel. If you are writing storylines for characters that are already established, you need to have said writers in the room with you. You need to be reading the most recent issues just so you can get a better understanding, even if this is a reimagining, just so you can get a better understanding.
It's just mad weird to me. I just think it's weird. It's weird.
Speaking of weird, our last topic, Normani being featured in Chris Brown's new music video. Let's talk about it. More specifically, can one really separate the art from the artist? Bree, go.
You can't. Like, y'all not finna sit here and tell me that I can listen to R. Kelly without thinking of the stuff he done did. Are you kidding me? And then let me read my notes, y'all, because I'm gonna get off topic. Okay, so I do think that we expect too much from celebrities these days. Okay, we expect them to have our same morals and our same thoughts, and it's just not going to happen. We're not going to get what we want most of the time. But I still don't understand why Normani would think that hopping in a Chris Brown video would make sense for her career. Like, I'm in no place to talk about somebody's career, but like, it's just anybody who's associated with Chris Brown is questionable.
Now they are on the same label. So some people are saying it's a label decision. Also, Normani has put out tweets in the past saying that Chris Brown's personal life doesn't take away from his talent. For me, look, I think Chris Brown is talented. I think looking at some of his stuff before he got too big, he had talent and he has talent. That being said, I also think he has a lot of issues. If a lot of people are saying the same thing about you, either they are one, in cahoots, which is unlikely but probable, or two, there's some truth in what they're saying, which is more likely and more probable. I just feel like you can't always separate the art from the artist. Like, I couldn't do it with Bill Cosby without feeling guilty. Like, I grew up on the Cosby Show, A Different World, the Fat Albert movie, and the Fat Albert cartoons, and it's just like, I can't watch that stuff without thinking about all these allegations against him. It's just, I feel guilty. I cannot do it. I cannot support that anymore. Like, go ahead.
You separate the art from the artist if you don't like what they put on a pizza, okay?
Right. Like, if it's something that's a genuine mistake, they, one, acknowledge said mistake because, hey, they are human, they make mistakes. Two, they apologize, and three, they try to correct their behavior. That's one thing. But in this specific, I think that's mad weird. In this specific, to try to just justify that by, I'm separating, no, it's mad weird.
It's a whack excuse. I still love you, Normani, though. Sorry.
You know what? That is all for What's in the Headline, and that is our show. Thanks for listening and watching. If you like our content, please be sure to like, follow, comment, subscribe, and most importantly, share. You know you want to share, and you know you want to hit the notification bell. You know you want to. Just do it.
If you like our content, especially if you like it's the first video, but if you like our content, go ahead and do it. You know you want to.
And with that, that's our show, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.